Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mind Your Soul. And today's episode is about holotropic breathwork. And Blake is our guest today, and he practices all kinds of breathwork, which holotropic is one of them. And he is a masculine and empowerment coach for men. Welcome, Blake, on the show.
Hi, Farah. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this.
I'm also excited. And we met in group coaching a couple of months ago, and I was like amazed like by your breath work. You did a session for us, I remember, and I was like so amazed by your skills. And I was like, you gotta come on the podcast. Because I've never tried this kind of breath work before, and I've tried different ones. But I was like, this is different. There are so many categories, and yeah, it's interesting. And I think our listeners could benefit from this because when we don't know something, we don't know. When we don't know, then we cannot act upon it, obviously. But being more conscious about what is out there will might help us with our mental health. Um, so, Blake, what is holotropic breathing or breath work? I don't know the names.
First of all, thank you for the introduction, Farah. And it's so true. Like the power of the breath is incredible. It's a tool which we have with us all the time. So it's very important to use it. So holotropic breath work is essentially ventilating the system where you're breathing more air into the body than is going out. And what that allows is it allows for the thinker brain to go offline and to go to sleep. And that's when the magic really happens, where the body can release stored up emotions, blocked energy, release trauma, and really have a profound healing experience just with the power of your own breath.
Sounds amazing. So it does a lot.
It does.
um, I tried it with you, and I felt like dying. Like I tried it with you. I tried it, right? Yeah, and I felt like dying, but at the same time, it was such a release, like you say, of emotions, and I felt this emotional release, and I slept like a baby
That's so true.
afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a really great session with you guys. So obviously at the beginning it's very challenging. It's hard because you're breathing and you're not used to it. Your brain's like, what is going on? But the most important thing is the first like 10, 15 minutes, because that's where you're going to have all the resistance. Your thinker brain is going to be like, what's going on? I've got to do things. I should be here. But once you get through those first 10, 15 minutes, that's when the brain starts to go to sleep. And that's when the profound magic happens. So well done for
Yeah, I
pushing
found
forward.
it very difficult. Yeah, so I was very uncomfortable, and I felt like I cannot do it. I felt like I lost all the oxygen, and I couldn't think straight. And I was like, no, no, I'm feeling off in my body. And you were like, oh, you're supposed to feel like this. And I'm like, am I? And I'm like, yeah, it's natural. Yeah.
No, for sure. It's like anything in life. You just got to push through the resistance and something that you're used to. So the body is just like freaking out. It's like, what's going on? But as you experience yourself, when you keep going through it and get there, that's when beautiful things happen.
Yeah. So how does this holotropic breath work influence our nervous system in the brain? Like, what are
So
the benefits of stress? And yeah, could you elaborate on that?
holotropic breathwork works on the body and the nervous system is very simple. So I like to break it down into three different brains. Obviously, it's all in the head, the one brain, but it works in different ways. So you have the thinker brain. This is your day-to-day brain. It's what you use most of the time. And this brain is great because you can think about something before it has actually happened. So we can think about something beautiful. We can think of a sexual fantasy, and we can feel arousal. Also, we can think of something very negative and scary, and then we'll feel that in our body as well. So it's great, but it does a very bad job at telling the other two brains what to think and to feel. So then we move down a bit into the heart brain. This is all your emotions and feelings. It's really the spice of life. So it's beautiful as you can experience gratitude and joy, grief, sorrow. You can experience all kinds, negative and positive. And what is challenging about it is that it can get a bit rocky. It's like an emotional roller coaster when you're going back and forth between each emotion. But it's beautiful, really. That's what allows us to be humans and experience all these different types of emotions. And then we have the lizard brain, the gut brain. This is your survival brain. All this brain cares about is survival, which is basically telling the body to pump blood around and oxygen around the body to when it senses danger, your fight or flight response will kick in. And that's where things get a bit complicated as we move forward with, with the trauma in the body. But that's essentially how it's going to work. Once the thinker brain goes offline, the magic happens in the heart and the gut brain.
Wow. So a lot of things are basically happening.
Oh, for
When
sure.
we are doing this kind of breath work, we kind of releasing some trauma you mentioned. So we're supposed to feel uncomfortable while we're doing it, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's not you're supposed to, but it's just a natural response. So I'll dive a bit more now
Yeah.
into the fight or flight response. So basically, when there's an instant in your life where you have your fight or flight response kicks in, this is essentially your brain and your body saying, danger, I need to either fight for your life. That's going to basically, you're going to punch and you're going to kick and you're going to kill what's in front of you. That's why people have lots of tension and energy stored up in their shoulders, because it comes from
Yeah.
punching and kicking, and also in their legs, the hips for kicking. And if that is not an option, we have flight, which is basically you're running for your life. You're going to run as fast as you can. So that's why, again, the legs have all this stored up energy. And so if we go back to an incident, if in that moment fight or flight was not an answer, not a response, you could not run away or you could not kill the enemy. I can explain. I had an example a couple of years ago. I got robbed at gunpoint here in Colombia. And in that moment, there's two guys on a motorbike pulled up behind me on Halloween, and it was a dark night. And at that moment, I had two heavy rucksacks on me, so I could not run. Like, one, they had a gun that was going to shoot me, and
Yeah.
two, I could not fight them because they're further away. There's two of them, and if they got close to them, they're most likely going to shoot me. So in that moment, all I could do was actually freeze, and that is a natural response of the body of freezing, and you're essentially keeping all of that energy and freezing it and hoping that until you get another time to either run or fight. And that is essentially one of the ways that the trauma gets stored up in the body, because it can't do anything about it. So it just like blanks it out and it just keeps it in the body because it can't process it, because your brain thinks you're dying in that moment. So that's one of the hijacks where you just freeze all this trauma in the body. So then you have to process it after. And breathwork is a great tool. So in that moment, I then had to do my own inner work and to help process and release this stored up energy of like I was going to die, essentially. And if you want to move forward as well, we can talk a little bit more about the attachments, where like there's so many attachments, but the main two which we talk about in today's world is anxious and avoidant attachment. And these play a big part as well. So an anxious is essentially when you feel that love is going away, or you are receiving someone's disapproval. And it goes back to a childhood response of when somebody didn't receive the love that they needed it from their parents. It doesn't mean that the parents were bad. Like parents, even the best parents in the world, can have this impact on their children. And it's really important for the child to naturally feel secure themselves. Obviously, it transforms into the grown-up adult, but they have to inner work themselves. They have to feel securely attached. It's very, very rare. Like 99.99999% of people in the world have experienced a moment in their childhood where they did not feel safe. So that's a big one. And how it works is they tend to later on in life, like trying to get people's approval, trying to receive the love, making sure the love is there to feel safe, to make, because they didn't receive it when they wanted it as a child. And then if we move towards the avoidant type, this is essentially somebody that is keeping people away at a distance to stay safe. It's a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And you see this a lot in relationships as well. But the way that that person can move forward through it and to heal is for them to have to come out and be vulnerable and express the way they're feeling. Say, hey, I have a tendency in this moment to close up. I'm not feeling safe. It reminds me of this. And that's how they can move forward. But they have to come out themselves, and the anxious person has to securely attach themselves in that moment and remind themselves that they are safe. They have a safe space.
Yeah. Polar opposites, basically.
Indeed.
The attachment and avoidant. I think I've done both, like personally, because I did have some things to heal myself. So I had both behaviors. If it makes sense, it might sound weird, but I found
No,
that
absolutely.
out. Like I had both things. I did as a self mechanism. I even attached too much, or I pulled like Yeah, when they attached too much, so it was like there was neither like there was never a balance. It's like push and pull all the time. So I had to do some inner healing as well, and I think breath work is really powerful in doing that. And yeah, we're always breathing, right? But are we breathing correctly? That's the question. Because there's so many ways to breathe, right? It's like we've been breathing our whole lives, but then we found out, oh, I was doing it wrong the whole time. You know, because breathe, there are breathing techniques, and you taught us to like breathe in a specific way. The holotropic breathing, something I've never tried before, and I didn't find it easy. I thought it was very difficult. And I do even like breath sessions with my clients, and I found it difficult. So it was like next level for me, definitely. So where did you stumble upon like this type of breathing?
So holotropic breathwork has been around for many, many years. I don't know the origins on it of
Okay.
it exactly, but I learned it from one of my mentors and coaches who was helping me along my own journey. And I realized at first I was like, I don't want to be another breathwork coach. There's so many people out there, so many people out there, and I had all this resistance. You know, I had friends to do it, and the more I got into it, the more I was doing it myself. I was like, well, people need this. The world needs it.
Yeah.
And it's so
Yeah.
simple. Everyone has it. Everyone has it. It's your own tool. You use it every single day. And you're so right about talking about the different types of breathing. Something which I've really been discovering a lot more recently and diving into is that most of the time on day-to-day life, if people are breathing in just through your mouth, I don't know the exact science behind it, but it's basically triggering the body that there's danger. That's why nasal breathing is so important. Um,
Yeah.
but that's why
So we're doing it
obviously
wrong.
yeah, obviously when you're doing holotropic breath work, you're breathing in through the mouth because you're getting more air comes in because your mouth pathway is a lot bigger than your nostrils, and you want to hyperventilate. That being said, you can still get high just by breathing through your nose, but it takes more time and it takes longer.
Mm, that makes sense. Yeah. So how many years have you been practicing it?
So I actually started my breathwork journey with Wim Hof. That was back in around, I would say 2015, 16, when it was first
Oh
becoming
wow.
like a
Yeah,
thing.
I've done Wim Hof as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went back and forth. I wasn't very consistent at the beginning. I attended one of his retreats in the Netherlands with one of his facilitators, like doing
Wow.
all these ice baths and stuff, and that was great. And then I obviously I wasn't always consistent. I was taking breaks. I got back to it, but ever since I really discovered working with this mentor of mine back in last year, actually, is when it started. I'd attended a few other like holotropic breathwork sessions before myself as a participant, but it was only really when I did that one-on-one with him, and then he taught it to me, and I was like, wow, the world needs more of this.
Yeah. It's transforming basically. And I was like, where can I YouTube this or where can I see this? And you were like, It's not on YouTube." And
I'm
I
sure you
was
get
like,
some on YouTube. I'm sure you get some on YouTube for sure. What I think is important is it's like any ceremony or plant medicine or any person, any like vulnerable and intimate experience that you're going to have. I think it's very important to have a safe setting, to have a safe
yeah,
intention, to have a safe energy, and to protect yourself. Because there are people out there who don't have your best interest in mind either, or they could have your best interest, but they're just not very responsible. It's very important that, well, obviously you're guiding them through it, you're holding space for them, but also that you bring them back into the body after that they're grounded, and you give them some recommendation for them to really get back into their body, because there's nothing worse than having this profound experience, but then for the next few days you're just like completely out of it and not knowing, like not knowing what to do or where to go. So it's really important to help support them with the integration as well.
so do you suggest like people do not try it out themselves, but actually with a coach or like mentor, just like we did, like in a controlled setting?
I would say that they can do it by themselves. Absolutely. I don't think that it's something which you have to have a coach with. I think that myself, I had beautiful, profound journeys just by myself. What I think is important, find a good practitioner, or there's videos on YouTube that do it. What I would say the difference is having a mentor or coach to help you integrate everything, because experience be like, what do I do with it now? Like, so you can like depends on the person. Some people can do everything by themselves. Some people need the extra support to help them integrate and to make sense of everything so they can properly integrate the work. Because it's one thing doing the work. It's like anything. It's like a plant medicine ceremony. It's one thing to go there and experience it. You're going to have these profound like visions and ideas and like breakthroughs and how there's clarity, but then it's another thing to integrate and to actually implement it in your life, which I see a lot
Yeah.
in the world these days.
And this is what most people struggle with. Like they have the intention and want to do it, and they get the gym membership, is the same, right? And then they're not showing up, like only in the first couple of weeks, and it's like the motivation just drops. So I think having a coach, like in my experience, or a mentor is really good to keep you accountable and to get your things done, and you get it in a habit of yours, because everything comes down to habits, right? And then it's like part of your life and you cannot live without it. Like I get all of my clients to do breath work before sleep. Okay. All of them. I'm like, you have 5 to 10 minutes, no excuse. And they're like making up excuses. Like, no, you have 5 to 10 minutes. And then I check up on them. Like, how was it? Oh, I'm sleeping so much better. Oh, I feel so much lighter. And it's like, okay, let's go. But if I didn't ask them or keep them accountable or to do it with me, they would fall off the wagon. Like they would do it themselves a couple of times and then be like, nah, I'm not doing it. It's
Yeah,
like,
accountability is so huge. And the main reason why people struggle with the integration is because that's the real work. It's not just taking a drink of medicine, taking a pill, or just breathing. It's the real
exactly.
work. Is the integration, because that's where you got to integrate what you've experienced. It's like going to school. Going to a classroom is listening, but if you're not actually taking notes and doing the homework and putting it into practice, then you're
Yeah,
going to forget about it. Like, how much stuff at school do you remember? Not much.
100%.
Only the thing.
Could you maybe like demonstrate how holotropic breathing differs from other breathing? Maybe you could show us a little bit
Sure.
preview.
So, like I mentioned before, holotropic breathwork is breathing through the mouth, and the way that we do it is it's super simple. It's just 2 breaths in, 1 breath out. So, with the first breath, you want to be bringing as much air as you can in from the belly, and then up into the second breath is going to be taking it into the chest. So, I'll be looking like this. What's really important is that you just find your own rhythm and you stay consistent. Often when I do it, there's big groups of men, and obviously with men, it's like I'm the strong man here, and it's a bit of a competition. It's like, but it's really important that you just do it at your own pace. Everyone's different. Everyone's nervous system is very different. What is very important as well as a crucial moment is the exhaling. You do not want to be pushing the exhale and putting out more, releasing more oxygen that's coming in. If you do that, you're going to create an unbalance of O2 levels in the body. And this is where you have the risk of creating tetany. This is where your fingertips and your hands could really cramp up, and like it could be painful. Now, often people ask me, like, Blake, what's the difference between just having cramps? Because you will experience just cramps on the day, or normally with breath work. Different parts of the body you'll feel tension and cramps. Sometimes you'll get hot and sweaty, and sometimes you'll get really cold and shivering. The difference is that if it's actual physical pain, I would recommend to slow down a little bit and make sure that you're doing the breath work correctly. Now, if it's just a cramp and it's just like, oh, this is interesting, I would invite the people to be curious and see what is there, what's there to be explored, what is coming back in your mind, what are you thinking about? So yeah, that's essentially it. It's basically you're just surrendering the breath, and as you
Difficult. Like I can do it too, but I felt off. Like it's difficult doing it for a certain amount of time. It's really
natural.
difficult.
But essentially, you want to be surrendering the breath, and only like 50% of the breath that you took in is going out. And as long as you stay focused on the breathing, you're thinking about the next breath rather than the exhale. You'll be fine, man. Like, do not do this. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but you want to make sure that there's more
Yeah,
coming in than going out.
yeah, because oxygen levels do drop in the brain, and the blood flow gets affected and affects our heart. And just like you said, with the cramps and the body reacts to it, it's basically our nervous system to all of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, but it's also promoting the vagus nerve in the brain is also promoting relaxation. So I felt so calm like afterwards when we were done, like this calmness just like waved over me, and I slept so well. Like every time I do breath work, I do sleep better. So it's just
So this is
about being consistent.
uh-huh. So what's interesting with that is I know you spoke about the vagus nerve. So obviously the vagus nerve runs from the top of the spine to the very bottom of the spine. This is
Yeah.
why I suggest for my clients to be laying flat on the ground without a pillow. That way it allows the spine to be completely flat, and that because there's lots of energy that flows between the vagus nerve. So you want it to be flat so that it can flow and be smooth for the journey. Another thing as well, which you mentioned, is about feeling great when you sleep well. So most of the time you will feel great, you will feel amazing, but sometimes you will actually feel worse than before. This is okay.
Oh,
This means that there's something happening. There's something that's come to the surface. So when that happens, I tell people like you might feel horrible tomorrow. Doesn't mean that the breathwork didn't work. It means that if anything, it's working. It means that your nervous system has again, your nervous system will only release what it's ready to release. So if anything, I invite you to be curious, to really go and be with these parts of you where you're feeling whatever that emotion that's coming up for you. Just really be with it. Be gentle. Be soft on yourself because this is parts of you that are so tender that have been shut down for so many years and now they're coming to the surface. You want to nurture them, is really be with them. So the best thing you can do is just give yourself some compassion and be gentle with yourself your next day. Go out in nature, give yourself a hug, like ground yourself, and just be gentle.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't feel that, but some people do feel that. But as you said, it's natural. Yeah.
Absolutely. Most of the time, you will
So
feel amazing, you will feel good, but sometimes you're gonna feel like, what the hell? Like this is why did I do this?
yeah,
Why
it's a
did
release.
I?
Yeah, so it's a release of emotions. And my clients sometimes feel that with hypnosis. They're like, I didn't feel grounded afterwards. I felt off. But that just means it was triggering. I have some more work to do. And I'm like, yeah, it's not always going to feel calm and pleasant. And you have to acknowledge your
Real work.
emotions and we can work further with it. Yeah. So it's not always like that. So yeah, I can resonate with that, actually. That makes sense. Any last thing that people should be aware of before we end the session, the podcast? Sorry, talking about sessions. The podcast on the breathing techniques and yeah, holotropic being different from other techniques out there.
Well, I would say that I would just invite people to get curious, right? There's no
Yeah,
right or wrong. People
yeah,
can have profound healing experiences by themselves, doing Wim Hof method breathing, shamanic
yeah,
breathing. There's so many types. I just invite people to get curious and to try different things, and to not necessarily think that didn't work for me the first time. It's like anything, the first time you try to run a marathon, it's going to be very hard. It's going to take practice. So just don't think that the first time you didn't like experience like these things that you hear people say, like, oh, I saw these colors, I was in paradise. Just stay consistent to your journey and get curious and realize that
yeah.
only you can do the work. No one else is coming here to save you. No one else is going to be able to do the work for you. Only you can do this. Often at the beginning of each session, I tell people that it's like think of you climbing a mountain. You get to the top of this mountain, and you're doing how you're gonna do it. You're gonna walk step by step, and it's the same breath by breath. To stay committed to your journey, to the process, and that's when real magic happens.
Absolutely. So where can people find you, Blake? And you said you only work with men. So where can men find you?
Absolutely. So right now, I'm really helping men to end being nice guys. There's so many people out there, or most men, I myself experienced it, where you have these tendencies to be nice, being a people pleaser, trying to get people's validation. This comes back from being insecure yourself, from trying to get that attention, that love, which you did not receive as a child. And this is playing out in people's relationships, especially with men in their relationships, being nice guys, not having boundaries, finding it hard to say no to people, with their work as well, saying no to their boss, saying no to overtime, even just their friends. They feel cool to do things with them, but even though they don't want to do it, they're saying yes just because they don't want to. And this goes back to their childhood. So lots of the coaching which I do is helping men to identify these nice guy traits and finding the root of it, the cause. Because just like anything, it's like medicine. You have a headache, just take a pill. That's not going to deal with the cause. You're most likely dehydrated, or you're not, you're watching too much TV and screen. So I really, it's really empowering to see the men go back to the younger self and heal them, and that's when they can then find that confidence and find and to feel secure, attach themselves, to know that they are worthy of love and know that they didn't do anything wrong. Because most of the time, these nice guys will think that they are not worthy of love, that they are the problem. That children are very egocentric. So whenever something happens, they did not receive or get what they needed at that time, they're going to think that they are to blame. So they're constantly chasing the approval of their father. Like, look at me, I'm a man, I'm strong, I'm worthy of you playing with me. Or with women, it's like, I'm worthy of love, I'm worthy of your attention, I'm worthy of you seeing me as a provider, a leader. So they're constantly chasing and chasing. So that's the main focus of the work I do. People can find me at Instagram at coach.blake. That is the main platform which I work on these days.
I'll drop the link.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, of course. That was beautiful, Blake. I think it's beautiful work that you're doing, and I hope men will get to you, because I feel there's a stigma in society as well. Like men are not allowed to show emotions, and they're supposed to be strong all the time. And if they're too sensitive, it's like blacklisted. Like my boy is very sensitive, and I tell him that that's your superpower. There's nothing wrong in being sensitive, and he does not hit back because he does not believe in violence. And the boy's like, he's been beaten up, I know, but he's 5. But like eventually one day he will stop it, I think. But he doesn't like to hit. So it's like we're all different, right? And just because you're a soft soul as a boy and or a man, it doesn't make you weaker. And that's how the society has put this image up of men. They have to be so strong at all times. And I think being sensitive and being emotional, it should be a superpower, because those are the men who are wise, who's actually doing all the right things and being true to themselves, right? They're not hiding themselves. I think that's a superpower, wearing that mask. So I think it's beautiful work that you're doing. I really hope men will get back to you. There's definitely someone has to speak up about this,
That's so true. And like
yeah.
you mentioned, like you can either the way I see it right now is like the red and blue pill. You have the extreme of like the Andrew Tate. This is be strong and hard and hustle and grind. Never show your emotions. You're not allowed to. Most of the time, that's children that weren't allowed to that weren't acknowledged for their emotions being seen at home. They weren't. Every time they were emotionally, they got shut down by their parents. So you have the guys of like, be hard and strong, and then you got the other side of the spectrum. You have people who are like, just be open and vulnerable and be your feelings. And it's like, you've got to find the balance at the end of the day. It's the balance of, yes, you want to be strong and courageous and go after what is important to you. And at the same time, you want to be able to open your heart. This is what I see a lot in relationships with men where they struggle is that either too vulnerable. And because if you look at the definition of vulnerable in a dictionary, it's actually like being open to receive under attack. So it's, you want to be strong, have a strong spine. You don't want to be a spineless person, and not, you want to have boundaries and be strong and firm. But at the same time, you want to be, I like to call it heart-centered, where you can come to your wife and say, hey, I am feeling this way, and hey, this is going on right now, but it's going to be okay. I'm going to get through it, but I just want to share with you. So it's really finding the balance. And the most important thing, right? Yeah, the most important thing which I coach men through is just being you, being your authentic self. Like you say, taking that mask off, finding that self-love for yourself. The way you are is enough. The way you are is okay. So it's about being confident and realizing that everything that happened in your childhood, it happened for a reason, and there's nothing to make wrong about it. You're not wrong. You are enough. You are powerful, and that every single man has that capacity to find that person inside of them and to heal that inner child. So
absolutely,
really owning authenticity, embracing authenticity, the way you are is enough.
Yeah. And this is the new vibe, and I like it. It's good. We're moving in the right direction. There is hope. So thank you, Blake, for coming on, and I will drop the link so you men out there can reach out to Blake if you want to try it out with him. Like, what is holotropic breathwork? You can reach out to him on Instagram. And thank you. It was an honor to have you on.
Thank you, Farah. It was great. This is my first ever podcast interview, so it's a great way to start.
You did well. You. So thank you, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.